I'm a conservative. I'm the token conservative in the universal universe. And what I was going to do is come here and give you my Rotarian speech, and I figured you don't want to hear it. I don't want to give it, so I'm going to show you about twice as many cartoons as I usually show. So stay with me. But I did want to say, when I got this invitation, that I was, you're an intimidating group to someone like me. You've gone to, school. And you're just a smart group. But then I thought, wait a minute, I'm an editorial cartoonist. I'm your worst nightmare. I mean, think about what we do. We misrepresent, we misquote, we show things out of context. Oftentimes we get closer to the truth than most of the reporters. So thank you for listening, and I'm going to just dive right into the cartoons. At the end of this, we're going to have a Q&A, so if you have a question, shout it out. And I'm also going to have a slide with some of my contact information, so if you want to carry the conversation on a more personal level, you'll have that opportunity. Keep it to yourselves and don't give the list to anyone, because although it's not true, my is big enough. And if you have the Nigerian lottery, I don't really want to win it. One issue that comes up, and I was on a panel recently with Ted Rall, who's far left, but I really respect the heck out of, is that we were asked how easy is it now to bash President Bush? I supported him, and I supported the war initially. You're going to see the arc of my thinking on the war as you look at the cartoons, which, shut up. Who's laughing? But someone asked, is it easy to hit Bush? It's like beating up, Sidney Wilkinson said it's like beating up a puppy. And at this point, with low poll ratings and so on. But there are so many other issues that have come out of this war, and for me it's civil liberties, and how I had this argument. My dad is a passionate political file. He has the cable news, and he's retired, so he has a lot of time. And so we argue about this all the time, and the ease of the eavesdropping. And I said, Dad, you taught me to hate the government. Don't trust the government. And what happens? The FBI abuses the privilege. So you're going to see that, a lot of cartoons like that. What I'm about to show you is, though, an issue that's very small, seems inconsequential, but do you guys have it here? I know we have it across the country, where they are saying they should have random drug testing for school kids. Well, there's a constitutional problem with that, but there's the other problem I have is a teacher saying, I liked it better when they left apples on my desk. And of course, the age-old question, sometimes the stuff's serious and sometimes it's funny, but this is, so where do I draw the line? And the pencil's labeled security versus our civil liberties. And this was in 2002 when that question became more and more relevant. This is the United Nations no backbone, moi? Someone implied this was phallic too. I'm noticing a theme here. This is my right-wingness coming out saying, but if we fight back, it might make them mad. Sure, when it hits close to the bone, you're not so laughing so much back there. This is at the beginning of the war. Anytime you have a squashed poodle, it's funny. I'm going to give you some hints on what makes a funny cartoon. You can't win, no way. And that's Howard Dean, cheerleader. This is as we're trying to instill democracy there. I may not agree with your opinion, but I will defend to the death your right to die for it. Try again. And this was during the early parts of the war when we seemed to be doing, well. It's Rumsfeld saying, we're still facing heavy resistance from pundits, skirmishes with brigades of analysts, and there are many, many entrenched armchair generals ahead. This is Boy Scout Troop 367, of which my son was a member, and an Eagle Scout, I might add. But this is the National Guard, and the troops are overstretched, and he's telling the kids, we're being deployed to Haiti. And one of the scouts is saying, well, at least we can get our nation-building merit badge. This was if D-Day were today, and you have the left going, turn back, it's too hard! This is when the 9/11 Commission report came out and says, how could we have missed the clues concerning the 9/11 attacks? And the other U.S. intelligence agent says, what attacks? And of course, going to the United Nations again is sort of, this is the oil for food scandal that continues to not be resolved. This is Cindy Sheehan's circus. She says, "Why won't the president talk to me?" And some of these are signs. Bush is the real terrorist. Bush equals war criminal. Impeach Bush. This other sign I made up myself, which is Israel out of the Middle East now. But you know, again, this is another lesson in cartooning. There's a monkey with a fez and a juggling bear equals excellence. And this is when the president lost me. Surge. It's ill-conceived. It's one of the really conservative cartoonists in the country, a guy named Gorell, came out this week with a cartoon showing President Bush and the Einstein definition of insanity, which is doing the same thing over and over, hoping for a different result. That's what this struck me as. And so he named it the New Way Forward, and you can see the ditch. He said, "Dig faster." And the great painting of Washington crossing the Delaware, except the boat is empty. And he's saying, you go to the surge with the consensus you have, not the consensus you wish you had. Sisyphus. Yes, 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 a crowd that gets it. Thank you. And of course, the Democrats, not being happy at looking at the president screw it up, wanted to screw it up even more by proposing funding cuts and saying, more bullets? I don't think so. This is deeply personal and deeply local. The 16th Street Baptist Church bombing, which killed the 4 little girls. This was in 2002, and they got the final conviction of the final guy and sent him to jail. And she's saying, "I'm sorry I'm late," because it took 25 years for it to, or 30 years for it to finally happen. One of the families of the little girl asked for the original of this cartoon to be hung in their house, and of course, it was my pleasure. This is what happens. You can draw cartoons and not have your wife talk to you for a week. This is when Justice Blackmun, who wrote the Roe v. Wade decision, died and went to heaven and was met with the baby saying, "What trimester were you in?" Yeah, that always gets that response. My wife and I have spent 25 years canceling each other's votes out, so there's really no harm in me voting. I just want you to know that. But I do have the culture of life. It resonates with me, and I practice it. I was part of the Pulitzer Prize finalists last year that the package we submitted, when the Birmingham News changed its age-old stance on the death penalty, and we came out against it. Because it seemed weird that we were against abortion, against euthanasia, against assisted suicide, yet we were all for the death penalty. So this was a conviction we had recently of a guy who killed some abortion doctors. He said, this extremist killed 2 people to get them to stop killing people, so he was killed. And they say irony is dead. And this was a culture of life and unrestricted stem cell research. And again, I can go into much detail and I won't bore you with it, but it's a baby in the blender cartoon. So again, a mark of excellence. The Terry Schiavo case, which tore the country apart, and a little child when she finally passed away. So, who won? Our generation and our tubby little children, Generation XXL,